So that was another way to do it, but let's look at one last way, and this way is the way I would probably actually build this part, at least for a reasonable model. Now the last way worked okay, but you saw that I was having some continuity problems with it, and that's bound to happen with this kind of thing. So what I might do in this case, actually, you know what, I'm going to go back out of here. Instead of doing an extruded surface, I'm going to do an extruded boss on the top plane. And we'll throw this out here. Let's call it a 100 millimeter circle. Get out of here. Let's go ahead and extrude that up by 150 or so. That looks about right. Oops. All right. And next I'm going to insert face, delete. So I can just delete this top face because I don't need it. Now I have an open body. Let me change my view to Studio Fill Height so we can see a little better. Alright, so I have an open body, and if we wanted to, we could go ahead and fillet this bottom corner to whatever we decided we wanted it to be. Do a constant radius edge fillet of 10 millimeters, maybe 15. Looks a little better. Okay. And you could actually, if you wanted to, instead I could do a face fillet. I can select this face and that face. And this will give me a few more options down here in my fillet options. If I use the face fillet, then I can actually make it curvature continuous if I'd like, which sometimes is kind of handy. And I can do a constant width. In this case, it won't be helpful, but in some cases, constant width can be really helpful. Okay, so now we have our basic carafe, and from the front view, what I want to do is draw a sketch. And this time, instead of an oval in our sketch, I'm going to draw a rectangle from center. And we'll make that coincident with this top line here. And go ahead and bring this down whatever I think looks about right. Okay, now I can project by going Insert, Curve, Projected, choose this sketch, choose this surface, and choose a direction. In this case I'm choosing to the front. Okay, and now we have our curve there, and I can go ahead and trim this using our surface trim tool. Oops. Use the curve as the tool, and then we want to keep this part. Okay, so we end up with something very similar to what we had before, but instead of an oval shape, I'm going to use a rectangular shape, and that's actually going to yield a much better result, believe it or not. So intuitively, a lot of people think that it would be better to use an oval shape because you want that round smoothness. But actually, mathematically, this is going to work a lot better. So now, from here on, this is going to look very similar to what we did before. So I'm going to draw a sketch. We'll do a spline. We'll go ahead and draw a vertical line from here. Make it a construction line. Click those two and make that a pierce relationship so that our curve goes straight through there. And then just put this wherever we think our spout ought to be. Make sure that this spline is set to be tangent to our base curve there. There we go. So we get a nice smooth curve. And now we're going to add our 3D sketch with a spline that goes from this point to that point to that point. And we will put a tangent relationship on that edge, tangent relationship on this edge. And now I'll click the spline and scroll down here to the bottom and just say reset all handles. That'll give us a little bit smoother. I can open this up a little bit more to make that a little bit less abrupt. There we go. Now relax that spline a little bit. Okay. Now that's looking a little bit pinched, but kind of close. So now I can go back and edit my original rectangle here, make it just a little bit wider if I want. Now I realize this actually should be constrained to be vertical above the origin, so I'm going to do that. There we go. That should be a little better. Edit this sketch, make this nice and smooth. There we go. Tweak that into place. And lastly, we'll do our fill surface. And now our fill surface is going to work a lot better because it's a four-sided surface. So we can do a boundary like this, and it'll go ahead and fill it. And then we can use a constraint curve like this one, and it'll create our surface. And then we could say that these three edges should all be curvature continuous. And that will give us a very nice, clean, curvature continuous surface. And you can see it's all nice and smooth there. Now, that gives us some control. That's a pretty good tool for that. There's another tool we could use instead of the fill surface command. We could actually use the boundary surface, which gives us even more control, but you need a direction. So in the last case we couldn't use boundary because we only had two sides. In this case we have four sides, which makes it easier. So direction 1, we'll choose that, that, and that, which is basically like a lofted surface. And then direction 2, we'll choose this edge and this edge. And that will nail us down. And then we can use these little pull downs out here to make each of those surfaces curvature continuous if we want to. I can select all of these actually, or just one, make it curvature. It's just warning me that it's having trouble making it perfectly curvature all the way across. But that's just because they're not all curvature yet. There we go. Now with all of those set to curvature, we should get a pretty good result. Look at that. Not too bad. Now you can see that I am getting a bit of a dip in here. So it is curvature continuous, but then I get a little dip in my surface. And the only way to control that is either to add more controls, or I could edit the feature and change each of those from curvature to tangency. And that should improve the situation somewhat. In this case, it doesn't look like it has. So it looks like we got a better result with the filled surface, actually. So we can go back to that. Throw our filled surface out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, with a constraint curve. Select these three, set them to curvature, click OK. There we have our basic carafe. We can knit this all together. One big happy family. I would do a thicken to 2 millimeters maybe, 2.5. And lastly, do my fancy little full round fillet to the outer surface, middle surface, inner surface. And it'll be tangent continuous all the way around here to try and make all of that work. Oh no, it's not working. Sometimes that'll happen. Let's try this. See if we expand this, and if it doesn't work, too bad. Sometimes things don't work and you have to figure out why, and I don't have time to figure out why right now. Okay, it's not working. So I could instead actually just use an edge fillet in this case. Constant radius edge fillet. We'll make it 1.2 millimeters. And it'll try to go all the way around. And I can do it on both sides. That's not as pretty as what I was hoping for in terms of the actual topology, because I get these two lines here, but that'll still work. It still looks okay. So there we go. Nice clean carafe. Using the rectangular edges here makes a huge difference. If you can make a four-sided fill surface, that's always going to be better than a funky-sided fill surface. So if you can do a four-sided patch, do it.